Hey, obviously this isn't a full review, but certainly it's not a full review. Been actually spending the past 6 hours shooting, probably 6 hours shooting, with the 80mm 2.8 macro Fuji, which is about 30% bigger than the 90mm f2 Fuji. By the way, as fast as the 90 is, the 80mm is faster. I have every Fujifilm X-series lens made. Now, this is a unique, and I'd like to see the inside of it, since I take stuff apart and fix it. There's a unique ceramic rollerball mech system for autofocus alignment on the 80mm macro. By the way, there's something important to tell you about this lens, that Fujifilm should be advertising the hell about this lens, but it's not. Wonderful feature. It uses linear motors, but it also uses a ceramic bowl roller system for a perfect alignment. And I know if a lot of people out there are not extremely familiar with macro photography like I am, I'm kind of consider myself a macro super nerd, is that when it comes to macro getting in close, even f8 is a really shallow depth of field. By the way, very interestingly, and I'll tell you the important point on this lens, there's actually a couple, that attaching, you lose one stop, so it becomes an f4. This is the 1.4. Would not use the f2 and the 2.0. Excuse me, not the f2. The 2.0 teleconverter from Fujifilm, which I don't think is even compatible. Yeah, it's not compatible with the 80mm, as I recall. Anyway, the 1.4 is, and here it is, and this turns it into a 112mm f4. You're like, well, you know, 2.8, it turns it into an f4. Yeah, but when it comes to macro photography, nobody gives a darn. Actually, the more depth of field you got, the better. I mean, like I said, at f4, you're talking about some razor-thin depth of field. So, dropping this lens from an f2.8 to an f4 with a 1.4 teleconverter is no big deal. And size does matter when it comes to macro. And so, turning this 80mm, be able to step back a little bit into a 112mm is nice. By the way, I can also tell you that additionally so, I mounted the MCEX11 extension tube on the back of this, the way you actually connect the three of them. And by the way, the autofocus is brilliantly flawless once you connect all three of them, as you connect your teleconverter to the 80mm and then your MCEX11 onto the back of this. Works flawlessly. And believe it or not, I was kind of shocked. You could actually autofocus up to, it's right at a hair over 6 feet, even with all three of those attached. Wow. There is something unique on this one. It's actually not totally unique, but it's rather unique to macros. You actually have 3 settings for, and a lot of people don't know this, because I actually was noticing someone that obviously is not familiar with macro at all. They're saying, well, they're getting autofocus warning issues on their 80mm macro. What they don't realize is that when you get in really, really tight, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're choosing spot or zone. Manual focus override is brilliantly important on this Fuji. It makes it so much better to use this than an Icon. If you get close and you have a low contrast before you actually pop off your flash, there's just not enough to lock onto for the autofocus. And that's true of any macro lens on any macro camera. So it's not an issue with this lens. That is just an inherent thing of macro photography. This lens is effing brilliant too. Let me tell you why. It's like, oh, you're just a Fuji fanboy talking out of your fanny about, I know fanny means something different in England and Australia. This lens is absolutely epic. And I can also tell you too, as an owner of well over 15 macro lenses and used every macro, I even own a Sigma macro lens, and I hate Sigma. It's the only Sigma lens that I own. This lens is the absolute damn fastest macro lens made by anybody, period, ever. This lens is the epic tatas. I was taking some shots today and I was just screaming like a schoolgirl. By the way, this is one of my countless, I've invented a unique sort of, I got 2 of them hanging over here, fiber optic macro lighting mod. I've also got special macro brackets, and this neat little thing. Now this looks obnoxious, this looks stupid. It's not heavy at all, it weighs less than an ounce. I've had quite a few people make one of these. What you do is you actually pop it on. This is the Fujifilm. I said it only weighs like 1.5 ounces. What happens is it actually funnels the light down here to a sloping mirrored interior, and this is actually translucent underneath here. Gives you absolutely epic lighting for your macro photography. It's just wonderful. I was taking some brilliant shots today, absolutely lovely. And I'm going to do the full review since my lens copy of this doesn't come in for another 7 or so days. This is actually for Fujifilm Professional Services rental of the 80mm macro, because my order fell through because not enough lenses came in from the person that I was getting it from. Stuff happens. You know, this lens is in high demand. This lens is epic. Let me tell you what. Absolutely, oh, wonderfully too, additionally so. This is like a mini review of this lens. You know how on basically every lens out there, you stop it down, say it's an f1.4 lens, you stop it down to f2, the bokeh looks octagonal, depending on how many aperture blades it is. You know, it looks blocky, geometrical. On this one, when you stop it down, you go from perfect swirly cat's eye bokeh, which I love at f2.8 on this lens, and then you stop it, you start stopping it down, you know, 2.8, 4, 5, 6, f8. It gets rounder and rounder and more. It depends on what you like. I actually love the cat's eye swirly bokeh at 2.8 on this lens. It makes it a really awesome lens for framing someone's face at 2.8, because this is also an excellent portrait lens. The bokeh gets circular and beautiful. The more you stop down, it goes from cat's eye swirly to circular and conventional and very ethereal looking bokeh, and the specular highlights become very, very circular. This lens is amazing. Whoever designed this lens at Fujifilm, give yourself a pat on the back, because it's absolutely epic. And I said, I'm a hardcore nut job when it comes to macro lenses. I've been waiting for this lens for some time. I actually was shocked on this lens. I was shocked at the bokeh on this lens. Shocked that absolutely this is the fastest autofocus macro out there. I mean, I'll just wham. I said, if you want to use this for conventional photography, knock yourself out. It's perfectly fine for that too. I got a video, or a couple of videos on actually how you make this. It just actually velcros on in a couple seconds onto your speed light, and it's not heavy at all. If you want to go out there and do really fast bug photography or flower photography or countless other things, the light that actually comes from this is incredible. God almighty, I love this lens. I know you can't see that. That's not as good as an image, right? Of course it isn't. I love the fact that I invented it, and there's nothing else out there like it, and if you wanted to go and buy one, you can't buy it because it's completely original. I have a lot of original light ones, so I'm going to do a full review on this in a few days. Now, this 1.4 teleconverter only works with two other lenses, the 100 and 400 millimeter Fuji, the 50 to 140 Fuji. I have all those. And it works with this one. This lens is now going to be sleeping stepsister to the 80 millimeter macro. Because, like I said, with that on there, it becomes an f4 112 millimeter. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Exactly like that. Really, really good lens. That's not really good. That's a stupid statement. It's epic. It's woodpecker lips tough, awesome. Yeah, one of those crazy analogies. This lens is the gravy train on biscuit wheels. Love it. So, full review. I'll post a bunch of test shots, macro test shots with it. I've only posted a couple things on Instagram and on Flickr from it so far. I've just been testing it. First I test it, then I take shots and post up test examples. So this isn't a full review, but I got it. Oh, I forgot. There's a lens hood for it. Wow. I was shocked. I thought, oh, you know, it's okay. It'll be good. No! It's better than that. Yeah, better than Nikon, better than Canon, and better than Sony is manual focus override. You want to talk about where manual focus override, and that's, by the way, it's in your menu settings. AF plus MF, that's where you actually are autofocusing. In single, not continuous. In single, and once you've hit it, or you thought you've hit it, you can actually override the lens as you have your shutter release button pressed halfway down, and you'll get focus peaking. And that's useful for some things, generally speaking, in general use. But when it comes to macro photography, that feature on the Fujifilm is awesome! With a capital A! Because it's not an issue with Fuji, it's an issue with every damn macro lens. Because before your flash pops off and you're, you know, 80% of, well, not like 100% of hardcore professional macro photography is flash photography. Which is why it's really important to be able to step the hell back, which is why a longer focal length on macro photography is so important. Why is it so important? Because if you're like using a 60 or 80 millimeter macro, you have to shove your lens up the ass of whatever the hell it is you're shooting. And what happens when you do that is that illuminating your subject becomes slightly difficult. Not for me it isn't, but for most everybody else it becomes difficult. Even with a ring flash draped around the front of your lens, it becomes difficult. So, really great. Awesome lens. Oh, I forgot. I've got like 5 ring flashes that'll actually fit this. Yeah, 62 millimeters. Oh, that's good. I've got 5 Got 5 ring flashes, in addition to my ABR 800. Anyway, epic tatas. This is my mini review on the 80mm Fuji Macro. Awesome! If you like these videos, Feliz Navidad, all that stuff, Happy Hanukkah, whatever sort of holiday, or whatever non-holiday, you can always click the link below. You know, because any help is also always appreciated. And thanks for watching so much. And let me know how I can help you. I feel like I'm unofficial tech support for various lenses and cameras and whatnot, because I get so many emails all the time. Thank you. Time to warm my hands by the imaginary fire here, roasting on my iMac. Bye. Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum.